is we will begin by having our Career Center do a presentation on mechanical engineering to give you some ideas of hiring stats and, the career path as it is connected to RPI and how the Career Center is here to help you with that. Then we will head into our panel where my dear friend and colleague Karen will take the reins to ask our wonderful mechanical engineering panel questions. And then we will do a Q&A at the end. And for that, I would say send me, so you should be able to see my name in the chat. You can send me private messages if you would like to, or you can throw it into the chat room. And I will, I'll collect all of those questions and we'll address them at the end. And the reason why we'll do it that way is so that way I can read it out loud or Karen can read it out loud so we can get into the recording that we'll have and that we can share with everyone. So throw your questions in the chat room. And Kristen, I will pass. Oh, wait, Karen, are we good with record? Awesome. So Kristen, I'll pass the reins over to you.
Thank you so much. I'll just go ahead and pull up my PowerPoint here and share my screen, if that's okay. Hopefully this will all go well. Can everybody see my screen? Do you see that?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. All right, so my name is Kristen Kettering. I'm a career counselor for the School of Engineering at the CCPD. And I'm going to just be talking a little bit about more specifics about mechanical engineering in general, the career aspects of it. So the first thing I just want to let you know is a little bit about our office in case you're not familiar with it. So our office is located in the DCC 209 DCC building. And a good way to remember where we are is if you know where the Starbucks Cafe is in DCC, we're just literally in the floor and we're right underneath the cafe. So that's where we're located. You just go down those stairs and we're right there. So what are the things that we help students with? We help them with resumes, cover letters, interview preparation for both internships and full-time positions. We help with internship, co-op, and full-time job searches. We help with salary negotiation and offer
letters. And then afterwards, I'll keep doing recap.
Anything and everything involving salary negotiation.
Don't forget to keep your mics on mute. So sorry, Kristen.
Oh, no, that's okay. Okay, and then of course we help with career assessments as well too, and help choosing a major. I know that the hub does a wonderful job at that, and we can also help assist with that as well. So even if you have chosen a major or declared a major, but you're a little unsure about things and moving forward, we can help with that. We also help with the whole graduate school application process, both searching and the actual application materials, as well as any kind of employer correspondence that you need a little assistance with, how to reach out to an employer, how to email an employer, how to message an employer on LinkedIn, anything like that. So basically anything and everything career-wise we help with. So let me just show you these statistics here. So we do salary statistics, both RPI does salary statistics, and of course there's annual salary statistics that the United States, keeps track of, federal statistics. So I just wanted to tell you a little bit about those federal statistics and then get into our statistics. So for those of you that aren't familiar with this website, this is a really great website. It's called the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and this is the website right here. When you get on the website, you want to search under job seekers and then look through the Occupational Outlook Handbook. When you get on this particular website, you see all different, you can look up any and every occupation you can think of, and you can see salary statistics that are updated annually, and they're federal, United States federal salary statistics. You can read about a typical work environment for any occupation, the job growth potential, the description of typical responsibilities. So it's a really great website for anyone that just wants to read about your major, but also maybe, specifics about the actual jobs. In those statistics, the median 2020 salary, so the salary that's right in the middle, is about $90,000, just over $90,000 for 2020 for mechanical engineers. Now, again, that's median, so that is everyone. So it's, people that have been working for a while in the field, and people that are just starting out. The lowest 10%. So these are your entry level workers in mechanical engineering, just getting out of school, things like that. For 2020, about $58,000 a year annual salary for mechanical engineers. If you look at our RPI website, the specific CCPD website at RPI, we have updated 2019 and 2020 salaries under annual report. Right now, our hiring statistics, the salaries still 2018, but if you go under the 2020 annual report on the same page, you'll see the updated salary, and it's right here. So the RPI class of 2020, mechanical engineering graduates, the average salary was 69,000 and change. And the range is anywhere from 55,000 to 102,000. So RPI is actually higher than, the national salaries starting out. So that's a great thing. So just to let you know that. And this next slide here is just, it's a little screenshot here of what I was just telling you about. So if you go to ccpd at rpi.edu and just click on students and then hiring statistics, this is what you'll see, all the different annual reports. Just click on 2020 annual report and you'll get a lot of that more detailed information that I had just mentioned for you. So this is just a sampling of the employers for mechanical engineer graduates at RPI. And again, this is just a sampling. Mechanical engineering is, the biggest engineering major, and there are pages and pages and pages of employers that we have for your major. But this is just a sampling in alphabetical order, and you can see there's some smaller companies here. There's some huge companies here. There's local companies here, all different kinds of things. So we just want to take a look at that. And then the internships so the current opportunities listed in Handshake, you can see that the internships and co-ops, this is just a sampling again, Jet Cool Technologies, the Raymond Corporation, and then we have full-time opportunities. So definitely check out Handshake. Jobs are being entered into Handshake literally on a daily basis. And you can see that this is just a sampling of them. So this is like a local company here. This is a big university hiring mechanical and aerospace engineer. So you can just see that there. So let's talk a little bit about resumes. So when you are doing a resume, there are skills that you can point out to employers on your resume, both in the skills section and within your descriptions of different parts of your resume. And these are just a sampling again of some of the skills that we like to mention to mechanical engineering students. So definitely, your manufacturing and machining skills. A lot of students don't realize that in the skills section of the resume, you can get very specific about your machining skills. You can go ahead and put down, lathe, mill, any of those things, vertical saw, any of those things that you know and are familiar with, you can put it on your resume, and employers really like to see it. Of course, any software programs you're familiar with, any coding languages, your math and science skills, of course, leadership, project management, your problem solving skills. And there's all different ways to showcase this on a resume. Your teamwork, your collaboration skills, your creativity, and your verbal and written communication skills. Okay, so those are things to emphasize. And then just lastly, just how to contact our office besides coming to the actual physical space, but how to make appointments. So you can schedule a 30-minute appointment with one of us in Handshake. And how you do that is you just go into your Handshake account, click on Career Center, and then click on Appointments. There you will see, if you're in the School of Engineering, which you probably are, you'll see my name. You can make an appointment with me, and you can choose your type of appointment at this point that you'd like. So we are still doing virtual WebEx appointments, email consults, but we're also doing in-person appointments. So that should come up. We are virtual every Wednesday, but Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, in-person appointments should come up as a choice that you'll have. And again, we're in DCC 209. You can attend our virtual drop-in hours as well, which occur every Wednesday from 10 to 6, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. The link is located in Handshake events. So tomorrow we will have drop-ins all day long. Those are 5 to 10 minute appointments that you actually, it's not an appointment. You just literally drop in and talk to a career counselor for 5 or 10 minutes without an appointment. So every Wednesday. Okay. And that is my presentation. Just wanted to share that. I just wanted to thank you all very much for that.
Thank you so much, Kristen. As always, very helpful, useful information, which is important. We did get one question in the chat, which I think it's just a clarification about the hiring stats. So the question is, didn't the median salary for 2020 say that the average was 90K? I think that was referring to, I'll let you answer.
Oh, no. Yeah, that's okay. Yes, that was referring to that statistic is for everyone in the United States working as a mechanical engineer, whether they have 30 years of experience or they have 6 months of experience. So that salary is elevated because it's everyone basically working with a bachelor's.
Yeah, does that address your question, Vaughn? Sorry, Kristen.
Oh no, that's okay.
And you, Vaughn, feel free to unmute your mic if you want us to elaborate more.
No, I think she understood pretty well what I was getting at.
Okay.
Cool.
Sorry if I was
was
confusing. I had a couple of different statistics up there from different places.
So on that, does anyone else have any other questions for Kristen, our wonderful rep from CCPD or Career Center? We can take a minute. Feel free to throw it in chat, or you can even unmute your mic if you want to just ask a quick question. And I actually, as always, I do have a question, but it's from the place of I'm sure this is on several of our students' minds, and if it's not yet, it probably will be very soon. But of course, we have a career fair coming up.
Yes.
So I guess if you could give us like a couple words of advice for how to prepare for students who are thinking of attending it. Of course, everyone in the room, there might be exceptions, but majority of the students are going to be first semester, first years. So advice for them, and then also the question I'm sure you get as much as I do, Kristen, which is, when is the right time to go to the Career Center for the first time as a college student? And is the first semester too soon?
Oh yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, actually we recommend as soon as possible. So we actually have already met with freshmen. So if whenever you can make an appointment with us, please do. It's never too soon. The earlier you get your resume all updated and ask any questions that you have, or just get familiar again with like what our office does and like what resources we can offer to you, and just kind of who we are and what our office looks like and things like that, the better off you'll be. So, and it's never too soon to come and see us, and it's never too soon to be involved in a career fair. So the career fair is the one coming up is on the 22nd of September, 23rd and 24th. It's being held over 3 separate days. This career fair is done by NSBE Shep. Two student organizations do this whole thing by themselves. They do a fantastic job. The career fair itself is virtual, and the rpicareerfair.org is the link. So rpicareerfair.org. I think I just typed that right, and I just put it in the chat box. That is the website. Check it out. The registration for that is not open yet. It will be open in mid-September. Once that is open, you get on there and you fill out your information. You need to have an updated resume to do that. And then you start looking at the employers and companies that are going to be present for that career fair. And you're actually going to pre-schedule either one-on-one meetings with employers or group sessions. So everything is pre-scheduled for this one, which is nice. If you're not familiar with employers, that's something that we can help out with, or which companies you should be focusing on. Again, that's something that we could help out with. So, you have another couple of weeks before you have to sign up for any of these things if you're thinking about doing it. So please feel free to make an appointment, or even just show up to our drop-in hours tomorrow and just ask us some questions. We can show you some resources to get started. And I think the biggest thing is once you start making appointments with these employers, research the companies. Research the companies before the career fair. Be familiar with what they do. Be able to vocalize why you're interested in the company, and then also be really familiar with your strengths, both your technical skills and your soft skills, your professional skills, and be able to vocalize that as well. And be able to introduce yourself, practice that, saying your name, what's your major, why are you at the career fair, what are you looking for, anything and everything like that. Just to let you know, on Handshake events, check that out, the events tab on Handshake. We do have career prep workshops coming up that you can RSVP to and join, and learn a little bit more detail about how to prepare for a career fair.
Thank you so much.
Oh, sure, no problem.
There was an incredible amount of information in that, and it was something you said early, and I want to go back to it just quickly to say, talking about getting your resume ready. The resume that you used students to apply to college and apply to like part-time jobs in the summer is no longer what you will be using to apply for internships and jobs. It looks totally different. You'll definitely still be able to keep stuff from high school on there, absolutely, but it's going to look very, very different, and it will be one page. So that's what Kristen, one of the huge things that she's here to help you figure out how to do that, because it can be really, really hard.
Yes.
And we actually got another question for you, Kristen, in the
Sure.
chat. Do you recommend doing an internship during your first year?
Yeah, I think it's great that first summer. I would say probably more the first summer, because then you'll have coursework under your belt. And I think employers, when they're looking to hire younger college students, they really want to make sure that you've had certain coursework within your major before you get, so just so you have more of that foundational knowledge that they can build upon. But yeah, absolutely, especially if you're coming to RPI and you're maybe ahead with credits and ahead with coursework, or you took like engineering courses in high school, or coding classes or anything like that. you're in very good shape to get an internship for the summer. So getting your resume set and attending career fairs and things like that would be very helpful for you. But yeah, any professional or industry experience you can get, the sooner the better. So absolutely.
And it's an awesome question and an awesome answer to segue into the next part of our panel, because we're about to listen to three wonderful women talk about how they took advantage of RPI, how they networked, how they got jobs, and what they're doing now. So thank you so much, Kristen. And just so everyone knows, we will make sure that tomorrow we send you Kristen's contact information. But of course, if you want an appointment, you can literally head to Handshake right now. I know that this is a new tool for you guys, but if you go to CCPD's website, you should be able to walk yourself through it. And if not, obviously reach out. You don't have to figure that out alone. But yeah, Kristen and the other members of CCPD will be there to help you.
Yes, thank you so much. Have a great night, everyone.
Bye, Kristen.
Bye-bye.
So now, as promised, I'm going to transition and hand the reins over to Karen. And of course, I'll have Karen introduce herself. Those of you who are Mechie already know who she is, and I'm sure you already adore her just like I do. Those who are undeclared, if you were to declare mechanical engineering, Karen is who you would start to see as your advisor in the hub. So Karen, once you introduce yourself, if you want to then bring on our panelists and get started on the fun part of tonight.
Hi, everybody. My name is Karen Lewis. As Kristen said, thank you for the intro. Welcome to Industry Hour. And as she mentioned, I advise mechanical engineers, civil and environmental too, which is a separate industry hour altogether. But if you have any questions after this chat and you want to talk more about mechanical engineering, you can always book an appointment with me or shoot me an email, and I'll include my contact information as well. So without further ado, I have some fabulous ladies I'm going to introduce, or actually I'm going to have them introduce themselves to you. So take it away, ladies. These are our mechanical engineers.
I think we said we were going to go oldest first, so I'll start. Hi, everyone, right? Okay. My name is Erica Sherman. I work for North America's largest roofing manufacturer, GAF, which is definitely not what I thought I would be doing when I started as a freshman, but we'll get into that later. I'm originally from Queens, New York City, so coming up to Troy was a little bit of an adjustment. And now I live in Jersey City. I had a hiatus in Nebraska, which was also an adjustment, but we'll get to that. And I got my bachelor's in 2008, my master's, and that was mechanical nuclear, my master's in mechanical in 2011, and then I actually followed my research advisor to Nebraska and got my PhD there in 2016. So that's a little bit about me. I'll throw it over to Christina.
Awesome. Thanks, Erica. Hi, everyone. For those who have not met me, my name is Christina Pacifico. I currently recently just left Tesla in April and joined Rivian as an engineering manager on their battery engineering team. For those who are not familiar, I'll just throw it in the chat, our company website, in case you're interested, for those who are looking. And I thought this would be quicker than I did. Awesome. And currently so I guess a little bit about me. I'm first generation American. So my parents came from Italy for the American dream and moved to Houston, Texas. So I was born in Houston, Texas. Was mostly in Texas for my childhood. I moved to New York for RPI, which was very much to get as far as possible from my family when you're 17, 18, trying to leave home. So I understand the feeling. And then I moved to Reno, Nevada for Tesla after staying in New York for a little bit for GE. And then was in San Francisco for the last year plus, and now I'm back in Texas. I'm in Austin working remote for Rivian right now. My degree was also from RPI, a class of 2014, woo, and I got a mechanical engineering degree, and my minor was in sustainability. I started an MBA at University of Albany. I was doing it after work when I was working at GE in Schenectady. And then after joining Tesla, I had time for nothing. So I have not finished that. So I'm just a bachelor's person. So I'll punt it to you then, Caitlin, for your story.
Thank you, Christina. So I'm Caitlin. I graduated in 2020, so I have a little baby bit of like the COVID college situation too, because my very last semester got switched hybrid. So we can talk about that if anybody has questions on that. But I work as a contractor at Regeneron. I've been there just over 8 months now, so I can talk a little bit on that. We're kind of just getting our feet wet there. I'm originally from Broad Albany, New York, which is a small town upstate, and I live in Colony now. And I mean, yeah, that's just a little bit about me. We'll get more into other stuff as we go.
Awesome. Thank you all. I'm going to cut right to the chase, and this is probably the question that everybody has for you, and it's why you wanted to be a mechanical engineer. We're dealing with a lot of students who are still kind of finding their path at this point, so whoever wants to begin.
I can
I'll
go.
go for it.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I think for me, I was in high school. I've always enjoyed math and science, but I started taking physics classes and I realized I loved how applied and problem solving oriented those types of problems were, or the topics. And I could really visualize what was going on. I didn't feel that way with chemistry. I didn't feel that way with biology. It felt like a lot of memorization. And when I learned, so this is also part of why I did Mech Nuke, because I was also interested in just like power generation and just what's going on there. And so the fact that RPI had the nuclear aspect really excited me. But when I also realized that physics in college wasn't the physics I had in high school, it was actually like mechanically, like it was more applied physics, like mechanical engineering. That's when I really honed into the combination of mechanical and nuclear engineering.
So mine's a similar but also very different story. Again, it was school. I think it was like 8th grade. We had a tech class, so you got to design and build a CO2 car and race them. And I just fell in love with the concept of like designing something virtually and getting to make it in real life. And that's kind of why I went down more of the manufacturing path by my senior year. So that's what started it for me.
Awesome. Maybe similar to everyone, but a little different as well. I am the first engineer in my family, so it was very weird. I kind of said it very simply. I just like building things and breaking things, so that kind of translated into some sort of engineering when I looked into it. And I wanted to make sure I learned about things that moved, so like static versus kinetic. I really loved the civil engineering world because of like kind of the foundational aspects of engineering, but I just wanted to make sure I could handle things that moved as well, which was a big piece of mechanical, but really it felt like it was broad enough to kind of hold the bucket that I was interested in. So my interests were manufacturing, moving parts, and just maybe I was a little interested in the aeronautical aspects, but more as a mechanical engineer. So that's kind of my, like how I decided.
Great, thank you. And speaking of your touch on multiple majors, I know Erica was a dual nuclear mechanical, and Caitlin, you dabbled in the ever popular aeromechanical dual. And I know a lot of students, we had a webinar over the summer about it for students to kind of learn a little bit the pros and cons of duals. Now you changed your mind on that. Can you just give me a little bit of insight on what you were thinking at the time?
Yeah, definitely. It goes back to like prospective student Caitlin. I met Karen at one of the open houses, I think, and we talked about it and I got accepted. And freshman year me, we're in their like second day of school, like how do we declare this? And like I declared it like as early as you possibly could. And then I took engineering processes and I loved the hands-on aspect, and that opened my eyes to the fact that there were courses like MPS or CAM, which are like very heavy machining based classes. And they push aeromech, I feel like, and they like say like, oh, it's only these like few extra classes, they just fill in your electives. But when you really do like that hands-on, more mechanical specific type stuff, you want those electives to take things without overloading your schedule. So it came down to I wanted to take those instead of this like required aeronautical things, and it just was more my interest. So I guess don't just do it because it's just a few extra classes. Like, sure, yeah, I have 2 degrees, but I think Kurt Anderson always like made a good like thing. Like, yeah, you come out with 2 BSs, or you're really good with 1. So
I like that. Thank you. Now, so going back to the mechanical engineering, can you guys walk us through a typical day of a mechanical engineer, or atypical, however you want to go with it? Whoever wants to begin.
Yeah, I'll just say my day right now looks like I wake up and I walk to my computer. So it's a very weird time for sure. Previously, at my time at Tesla, I did not have any time remote. It was all on site, but really being in the manufacturing world, my day-to-day really was based on like current project status. So if we're in the process of purchasing equipment, it's a lot of sitting down and like talking to vendors and understanding if the equipment is what we want, and we'll manufacture things correctly. So a lot of specification documents, like kind of understanding if it works. A different phase is more of like the factory acceptance testing, and that's usually when I'm traveling like crazy, which is like going to the vendors, making sure that the machines work to the way we want before purchasing, actually running trials on the equipment. So it's a lot of like travel, versus then there's a lot of the next phase, which is landing all the equipment, making it work, and then actually making parts off of it. So my day-to-day can be very different depending on the current status of the project. But currently it's a lot of sitting and planning.
Caitlin, did you want to take it next? I don't want to jump ahead.
oh yeah, that's fine. So right now, like I said, I've only been with like I said, I'm a contractor, so I don't actually work for Regeneron. I work at Regeneron. It's a weird dynamic. If anybody has questions, I can go more depth at the end, but I don't want to waste everybody's time with that. So I split my time between either being like on site and in the clean rooms, and we walk down like different things like the bioreactors or whatnot, and just make sure that like what the drawing says is there. So if we ever get inspected or anything, like everything's up to par. And if I'm not doing that, then I'm at my desk like doing processing type stuff. I find that it's not as engineering-y as I thought an entry-level engineering job would be, I guess. But I did do an internship at GE R&D, and I had a much more like, not free will, but like much more leniency with like projects, and like actually got to see a project through, not just like being part of a project at such a big company. So that was really cool. I got to walk down the city water in one of the buildings, and then we like had to put in RPZs, which are reduced pressure zones, which prevent water backflow into the city if we ever lose pressure. And so I actually got to design the system. So we put 2 in parallel so that if you ever do work, you could turn one off and still have one working. And just being able to see that through from like walking it down initially to designing it to then seeing like the trades like implement it. That was a really cool like full project experience that I got with my one internship.
That's really awesome, Caitlin. Yeah. I don't think I mentioned this before, but I work in new product development on residential products. So my day-to-day really varies, not just what I do within the day, but like of my projects where they are in the process, very much just like with Christina. So, and also pre-pandemic, different than now. I do go into the office every other week for safety reasons. They're having a space out, but I have my technicians are in the lab full time. So we do a lot of material testing. I have a lot of cross-functional meetings. I think one thing I didn't get exposed to as much as an undergrad was just how much of the non-engineers you'll be working with for most jobs. So I work a lot with like sales, marketing, our operations team to understand, if we're designing this product, okay, how do we make this product and what kind of tolerancing should I put on the design? And then, oh, we need new equipment. So again, just like Christina talking about what's needed, going through the trials, and figuring out, is this up to par? And then again, once it's delivered, how is it going to last, or how is it going to perform? Our roofing product can last up to 20 years. So that's a lot of durability testing and forward thinking that I didn't have to really think about, especially in grad school. But I do, yeah, so a lot of individual time to troubleshoot ideas and projects on my own. I do a lot of MATLAB still, but I also spend a lot of times in meetings cross-functionally with my technicians, and even on some projects with our sister companies, which has been exciting as well. So it really, every day is different, and that's what I love about it.
Thanks, guys. I like all of your answers. They're very meaningful and very different. So it's kind of cool. Let's go back to undergrad, flashback, and I want to hear what your experiences looked like. Did you do internships, join professional groups, make recommendations of clubs? That's the big thing that we have coming up on campus, if it hasn't happened, is the club fair, where students learn about all the organizations that RPI offers and all of that. So tell me what your undergrad experiences looked like.
I guess mine was the most recent, so I can go first. So I didn't get super involved with clubs right away. I did do work study. I actually worked in the hub as one of their work studies, so I would like check people in and like offer advice, like when kids had questions about specific classes that I'd taken. I took engineering processes my first semester, so I got super involved with being like a lab assistant for that, like most of my time, the rest of my time at RPI. And then I did eventually join curling, which if the season is happening, definitely check that out if they're at the club fair. It was incredible. You get to travel around like certain weekends and go and curl against other colleges. My 2 years that I was on the team, we actually went into nationals, ranked #1 in the nation. Senior year, we actually flew out to North Dakota for nationals, and that's when we got the phone call saying COVID was shutting down everything, and we had to scramble and find how to get home. Almost got stuck in North Dakota and ended up driving home, so that would have been interesting. And then if any of you have heard of the Forge, my freshman summer, I actually was part of the reason the Forge was actually even a thing. When I joined, it was these 3 guys, and one of them had a key, and you had to call a cell phone to get let in to use the stuff. And then after becoming a part of the club and working with them, we came up with a volunteer system where if you offered to volunteer your time to like learn to use machines, then you work in there to help people, you gain card access to the room. And it's grown so big that we actually moved next door and got an even bigger room. And then, like I said, I got super involved in manufacturing. So I took classes like MPS and CAM, which is manufacturing processes and systems, and computer-aided machining. So you get to know a lot of the shop guys, Larry Olini, Scott Yerbury. They're great people to get to know, like if you are more interested in the hands-on aspect. So I did a lot. You're going to probably see my face all over. I'm on multiple trainings. They're probably on hub advertisements. Yeah, you'll see me, I'm sure.
That's so awesome. Yeah, I know we were talking a little bit about before on the 3 of us, but I kind of did a little bit of everything, and I do caution moderation, just take care of your mental health, don't overcommit, but try to find a balance between the things I really wanted to do for fun, that really were a stress release for me, or that let me explore different things that weren't technical. I was on the tennis team for 4 years, and I loved, again, like Caitlin said, just getting off campus was great for my mental health as well, and just seeing other parts of the state. We never made it to nationals. But then I also got involved on the engineering side, career related. American Nuclear Society was something I was highly involved in, and I thought that was a really helpful way to meet other people in my major, besides also hanging out. I mean, back then it was the main undergrad office. It wasn't, I think it was pre the hub. It's a little old here, but meeting people there too, you get connected with other people in your major, and people can help you understand like what's ahead of you potentially. But I think I also really enjoyed, I was highly involved with Alpha Phi Omega, which is community service fraternity, and the Poly, the newspaper. And those might be things that you might not think of for engineers, but I can't tell you how much those experiences and even like the team aspect of playing for a sports team has helped me down the road in my career. Writing, public speaking, leadership, practicing, like all those things are great things to practice. So while I don't recommend doing things just so it looks good on your resume, I just recommend opening your mind to what you might actually be learning from a hobby or extracurricular that is also like, again, for your mental health, it's so important to have these options outside of class for you to relax and make friends and connect with people.
That's great advice. What about you, Christina?
I totally agree, and I kind of bucketed myself kind of similarly to you, Erica. Like I wanted to have fun, learn a little more. Honestly, it was the best way for me to continue going to class. I hated class, and I just could not concentrate without having like the extracurriculars. So for me, it was trying to build more interest around what was happening in class through like applying, but also just like having fun and being a human outside of just classes. So like very similar to what both Caitlin and Erica said. So like first I also wanted to make money in some ways. So I did I was an RA for Raps and Blitman. So I did that for a couple of years. That was fun also, like Erica was saying, meeting new people. Also, I was always an extrovert, so I loved helping other people kind of like make more groups and like empower us to keep going places. But I also did engineering processes TAing, and that was also some more money, but also that was my way of just having fun playing with the machines and meeting new people. My favorite was like Halloween time when I would help everyone with their crazy costume ideas in the shop. One year I helped someone with a lightsaber for a Star Wars costume. So that was like awesome because it was also meeting more people and then getting my hands dirty. I did Formula Hybrid as well. I was fabrication leader and steering design leader, and that was really fun. I it was exciting to be able to own something to design and then actually apply it. The first time I designed the steering, I did it backwards, so when you turn left, it would go right. So it was actually really cool to like just apply things that we're doing in class anyways. And then also be with people that are okay with you making the car go completely the wrong way. So it's also a nice, safe place to learn. And then I also really just needed ways to relax. So I did intramural soccer, was really fun. And I don't know if this still exists, but I was on the RPI step team and I loved it very much. So very much 100% would say that what made me graduate and get excited about my journey at RPI was the opportunities that the undergraduate experience gives you. So I 100% recommend like at least one, just like choose one. Like the step team was my like fun, I want to try it. And that's the other cool thing in college is your opportunity to just try new things and no strings attached, which is great. So yeah, definitely recommend it.
That's awesome. And one of the things that I find fascinating about all three of you, you talked about totally different programs. So there's obviously a lot for students, and diversification is key because it completes you. It makes you well-rounded as a student. So I think it's really awesome. So in the hub, one of the questions that we get all the time is what if the courses that they need for their major are actually used in the daily workspace, you know, and also like, do you find that to be true? I know that like we've had conversations about CAD, for example, and I know that CAD is used every day. What courses do you feel carry on to your workplace more than others?
I have a broader answer if you guys want me to go first. So I feel like mechanical engineering is such a broad major, right? Like you're going to take some thermals, you're going to take some electrical engineering type courses and stuff. So I think it really depends on like when you get into the field, which niche you end up in. So like, yeah, you probably are going to have to take some classes that you might not use. But I think down the, like, I can't speak specifics right now because like I said, I'm still kind of just getting my feet wet. So like, I think they'll probably be able to speak a little bit more specifically, but just being such a broad major that you definitely come across things that might not be your forte, but let those classes teach you, hey, maybe that's not my interest in mechanical engineering. Maybe I should look down this other path because it's such a broad major.
Yeah, I'll add to that. I think that's a great perspective on how to approach it. And I think it's surprising for me. So having gone for the PhD, like I focused on experimental fluid mechanics. So um, I really like moving through my master's into PhD. I like almost exclusively focused on, incompressible, compressible, any flow heat transfer class I could take, as well as any math classes. I think there used to be a course, maybe still fundamentals of applied mathematics, which was amazing, and then just other math classes to help. And those were all really helpful for my PhD and my research. Not so much for what I do now. I think actually a lot of the classes I took as an undergrad, I really find myself leaning back into. I do a lot more material science than I expected to. So material science class in the labs, strength of materials. I see so many stress strain curves all the time. It's wild. And CAD, yeah, definitely. We were having this discussion before about like 2D versus 3D. And since I'm in designing products and thinking about things that way, I definitely prefer SolidWorks. That's what I was trained on, and I use that from right away. But also, so while I wasn't a TA for it, I really loved engineering processes. I think that I took that for a semester too. And what I still have my Canon at my desk at work. It's like my favorite thing. But it really gives you an appreciation of you're not designing in the abstract. You have to really understand what it takes to make a thing, and what's realistic, what material you're working with, the expense of it even, and just like what your options are. Like I still design things. I'm not machining things, but I do work with a machinist, and we have lots of conversations of how like, okay, we need to choose a different bit or round that edge because that's not going to fit. So even my freshman year courses, straight through some of the more advanced laboratory work, and again, material science, that wasn't my bag. I really like the fluids aspect, but it's really come into play a lot.
Yeah, I agree with you, Erica. And Caitlin. It's also really depends on like the industry as well that's being going into. So like Erica, you kind of touched on it too. Like if you know you want to go more in like a design style career, then yeah, it's like 3D CAD. It's understanding your tolerancing, like GD&T, those classes, like you definitely want to take them if you want to be in design. um, R&D, I would say now that I always seem to be in like these R&D / manufacturing places, and as much as I hated modeling and analysis of uncertainty, that class I ended up going back and doing more like extensive Excel courses at U of Albany because it's just basically it's just manipulating data is so important these days, especially now, I think, and you guys probably are smarter than us at this point. Like data analysis tools and just data collection has just become like the bane of like my existence at least. And I would say like if I was a little smarter at focusing and modeling analysis of uncertainty, I feel like that would have been huge because it's like a lot of the tools needed on like just again those sides. And I'm sure for some people that are really good at data collection, like Python starts to come into play, and like those types of languages, since Excel lately has been not as strong as it could be. So I would say like be cognizant of also the world and how it's like how it's shaping up to be very data oriented. That's one that I think even MATLAB, like when I took that MATLAB course, that one credit course, I keep saying this, but I also hated that class. And it was actually it's really great because I can still have MATLAB conversations with people. I'm not the person manipulating the MATLAB on a day-to-day, but I can troubleshoot their MATLAB if needed, and I can kind of like move into it. So I'll say like just understanding those. Kind of also to say what Eric said, like engineering processes, I mean, personally was really important for me too. It like kind of like is, yeah, like Erica, you had the best example, so no need to kind of go back to that one. But I would also say for me personally, manufacturing processes and systems was huge too. One, because it's kind of like cradle to grave on manufacturing. So it's like I think, and I'll even share with you guys, I tried to apply to the OMLP program at GE, and they told me I was too qualified for it. So, and that was really because of manufacturing processes and systems. They were kind of saying like, basically that's what our leadership program is about. So it's just really cool that like, if you kind of know what track you want to go to, you'll see what courses work best for you. So I don't want to say this, but I do want to say this. All classes are important equally. I'll give another example. Like chemistry is a requirement for mechanical engineering, right? And I just thought that I could let chemistry die with me after Chem 101 or whatever. And of course not. Now I'm making batteries, so I need to know all about chemistry. So it's also about just making sure, even if you like don't even understand at the end of the class what you've learned, at least now you know it exists, and now you know how to potentially go back and learn those aspects. So I would also just say, if you're going to fail the class, at least remember what you failed so you can go back and learn it later. So yeah.
I bet you 2/3 of this class are in chemistry right now, so your words definitely ring to them, I'm sure. Thank you for that, guys. That's really helpful. And so a lot of what you were saying, Christina, was like about data, and the 1 credit MATLAB class that you were talking about, they actually replaced it with a 3 credit Python course. So, because the MATLAB
Perfect.
class was beginning programming, right?
Yeah.
So we're working in the direction of that as well. And students also ask me what they can do with their free electives, or even Haas electives, and how they can relate it to their engineering degree. Do any of you have thoughts on that? Because I know Christina mentioned she was a sustainability minor, and that's under the category of Haas. So what are your feelings on electives and Haas in general?
Yeah, my story is really weird, and I'll just kind of start. Like, basically, I went on Navigating Rensselaer and Beyond. I don't know if does that still exist. Cool. So I went on Navigating Rensselaer Beyond, and there was only one option open because I signed up a little late, and the only option was the visit to the landfill, which I was like, okay, cool, this will be cool. I've always wanted to see what trash looks like in a pile, and it was awesome. It was really exciting, but accidentally I met some of the craziest green like people ever. And as a Texan who had never been on the East Coast, it was fun to kind of meet new people who basically made me realize like how important it was to be sustainable. And this is like before the world kind of started jumping on this, which is great. But anyways, long story short, that's how I met a bunch of people, and met some really cool teachers that were on it that were in the sustainability minor world. And I just got so excited with like what the sustainability team at RPI was trying to do. So that's how I kind of fell on it and decided that I wanted to kind of make sure I learned what's going on in the world. And actually that accidentally helped me out a bunch with my career. So that I would say it can be a fun and light way to learn too, not just filling your calendar. So I'll say like, I would look into that as much as possible. But yeah, it's I would say, especially with mechanical engineering, like to try and be very in purposeful with how you choose them. Whether it's going to be a way to just like veg and like relax. So like those like sculpting classes I remember were really cool. Those were cool. And you can learn a lot anyways. Or that's an opportunity for like adding to your degree, which I think in some ways can be great. I think that's actually why I went back to try and get an MBA, is I wanted to learn more about the business side too. So I think, Karen, you were saying some interest in like minor in economics, or there's some of that. So yeah, whatever works with kind of the career path and passion.
Thank you for that.
I'll add to that and also kind of refer back to something Caitlin mentioned earlier. So since I did the MEC dual degree, my minor time was that, or a lot of my concentration elective time was already assigned to the nuclear classes. But I still had other like humanities and other credits that I needed to fill. So I originally I came into college thinking I wanted to minor in economics on top of that. And after 2 classes, I was like, no, I think intro and macro, maybe I forget, but it just wasn't my cup of tea. And I realized I wasn't having fun. I'm not going to go torture myself for another couple of classes or whatever it was. But that's when I kind of embracing what Christina said. Like I took, it wasn't sci-fi, it was science in fiction literature. And I think sculpture, and I think I took another class, but like they were just fun. It was just really nice to have these options that were just a nice breath, a nice way to change like what my brain was thinking about and to think about things in a more creative way. Not that engineering can still be really creative. I don't want to shortchange it, but just to think about things differently. So I'd encourage, definitely if there's a way that this can build towards something you can use in your career that's really powerful, but also there's multiple ways of approaching it is what I want to share.
So one of the big reasons RPI stuck out to me was I only had to take like 6 to 8 humanities. I hated like English class in high school. Like I did it obviously, but like the freestyle type writing was not my cup of tea. So I ended up like kind of following more the psychology route, which when I got to taking personality, which was the 4,000 intensive, you can ask Karen and Marie. I was curled up on the floor of the hub in a blanket the last 3 weeks of the semester, writing 6 essays because I put them off so long. So I don't know, it's definitely like an option, but I know my first semester freshman year, they still have IHSS, right? Okay, so I took this one, it's called Race and Film in U.S. History and Culture with Marianne Staniszewski of like the art department. And let me tell you, she was the craziest lady, but it was the most interesting blend of topics because you're learning history, you're learning the history of film, you're learning the history of racism in America, and you're tying it all in together in this like weird little perfect bow. But like that was like the coolest Haas experience I had. So if you can take an IHSS, like I've heard nothing but great things about a lot of them because it's such a different blend of things. Or like if you do go down like the psychology route, right? Like it's all kind of just the same after a while. I actually was 1 class away from a psych minor, but they added like a research class at the very end for my year, and I was like, yeah, no, I'm not into it enough to bother doing it. So I don't know. That's like my Haas experience.
Thank you, Caitlin. And I do remember your paper for psychology. So in summary, I think Haas and electives can be used for anything you want is the bottom line, whether you want to take a break or further your career or do both. And, kind of follow your gut with those too. And Caitlin, for the record, the IHSS is now a requirement. So the trend of you recommending it, yeah, that's, it definitely was recommended. And students do have to take IHSS. And for Erica and Christina, IHSS stands for interdisciplinary Haas. So it covers a multiple a range of topics. So it's not the traditional English composition kind of format, which I find to be interesting too. And I think a lot of students can find something that interests for them, even the non-Haas students like Caitlin and So anyway, moving forward.
Can I just one before you start? I just like this is like my mini advising piece. If you can tie in your 4,000 intensive depth in 1 class, it's great. It saves you a lot of time and opens up being able to take other types of classes.
Absolutely. And a lot of the IHSS classes are actually communication intensive already, so they can even get it done in their first year. So, and that's what we encourage in the hub, because why take a communication intensive in your senior year when you're dealing with more technical classes, right? So, but getting back, let's talk about a course that you actually struggled with at Rensselaer, because we know that they're hard. Everybody, certain classes have certain reputations. What was your experience?
I'll jump in. I think this was my senior year. So to your point, Karen, there was just like so much else going on. And it was modeling control of dynamic systems. I think ModCon is what we always called it. So it just like I need a visual, I need a physical, like I'm already doing fluid stuff. Like this was like the last thing I wanted to be doing, and I just didn't have the attention for it, and I didn't have the energy for it, and it just wasn't clicking. And I know I went to office hours for help, but I also this is where there was one other mech nuke in my year, and his name was Creighton, and we were actually roommates. We were in an apartment together. It's a long story, but great. Like we were friends. You know, this is what like is amazing about whether it's in your mech program or any other courses or clubs. You make these friendships and you work together. And he really did well in that class, and he was like, no problem. So we'd work together. He would help answer any questions or things that like I wasn't getting from the professor. And it was also just nice to have a gut check of like, okay, not everybody gets everything, right? Like I didn't graduate with a 4.0. I wasn't perfect, right? But like it's okay to have courses that you struggle with, and that's fine. So and even to do it senior year, So yeah, like it's tough, but it's real and you can get through it. Just you there's probably more people able to help you than you realize. So just ask. There's no shame in asking.
I have two that stick out to me. So the first was freshman year. It was IEA actually. The biggest thing was I'd never taken a real engineering course. So I was trying to like learn how to like learn it and apply it at the same time. And if they still have like drop-in tutoring hours, like I started going to those, like completely bombed the first exam and actually like did really well in the second and like just kept it up. And then I think it was junior year, I was taking design optimization as my computational elective for mechanical engineering. And I transferred in credits, so I didn't have to take that beginning MATLAB course. So I had never like really learned MATLAB. So I was learning MATLAB while they were teaching super high level MATLAB and super high level like math. Um, and of course, I waited till like the last project where like I was going to fail the class to ask for help. And I managed to like pass it with a D and everything. But like looking back, like biggest piece of advice I can say is like ask for help before you need it, whether it's like your advisor. Go get to know them before you need them to help you with the schedule, or go get to know your professor before you need help on that project or before you're failing their class. Like that's like the biggest piece, because if you have that rapport, like it's a lot easier to go ask for help when you do need it. And then the other notoriously hard classes, I feel like I made it through pretty much okay because I went in with a strategy of like, I'm going to take it with a friend, or I got really lucky and got really good groups. So like those types of classes that can like help you out too, like to try to take it with a friend if possible.
Yeah, I also struggled with IEA. I think it's just funny because it's like that first welcome to engineering school kind of thing. So it's like your brain is trying to like start thinking as an engineer. So it was more just um like it starts quicker than you expect, I think is the best way to say it. Like, no, you can't catch up next week. Like, no, you need to, because what's funny is like it just keeps moving. So I think a lot of it too is also getting in the rhythm, like as soon as possible. Like I noticed, weirdly enough, like if I had read the syllabus before the first day, it was actually more beneficial to kind of like be on the same page as the teacher the first day. That was like huge, because then you can also get all the like the gotchas, which is like if you're not in class, then you lose 20% of your grade. Kind of understanding the way the professors organize themselves is also a huge way to know how you're going to have to organize yourself. So the ones that are clearly like, we're going to follow the book, we're going to go chapters 1 through 10, then it's like you need to get in the groove of like reading the book. Then when you start to realize that the professor's the kind of professor where like none of the things that are in the book are in the exam, then you know it's like, okay, I need a study group. I need to start like going to the office hours, like kind of like Caitlin said. It's like you then start to kind of hear a little more of like, focus on these aspects. So it kind of helps in that aspect. And then personally too, I think a lot of times it just wasn't clicking, and it actually started to click more after I was more in the groove of things in Formula Hybrid and like engineering processes, because you have more experiences to draw from and help you through some of those more complicated aspects.
It's really relevant to these students because so many are taking IE this semester. And I know that my colleagues and I have fielded quite a few frantic emails about, I'm lost already and it's the 1st week, and it is. IE is a hard course. And it's helpful to see that there's a light at the end of the tunnel and there's success at the end of IEA, even if it's not your sharpest class. So that's great. So
Yeah, and
I
like
want to
just to add, because I agree, and like retrospectively, I think we all laugh and we're like, oh, IEA. But I think what's so funny is it's almost like the first time, it's like your first welcome to college class. Like you can't take an AP credit on this. Like this is your first welcome. So it's funny that, of course everyone's expecting that you have your like vectoring clear in life. So like that's the other thing too, is like brushing up on some of those foundations, which IEA makes clear they're not really going to go through. And it's important to realize that engineering is kind of drawing on all the other foundational aspects. So yeah, I definitely, I feel like that should be like a public service announcement at the beginning of every IEA course, because yes, it goes quick.
It's like you're learning how to learn engineering almost. So it's like getting into that mindset. And then once you've got that, like going forward, that you apply it at every class.
Thank you. So now we're going to talk a little bit about later plans during your student career. Erica, you did your PhD, and I know that I wanted to touch on URPs and how it relates to advancing right through to a PhD program. And I know you all can weigh in on your URP experience as well. So can we start with you, Erica, about your journey?
Sure, yeah. I'll start by saying when I went to college, I was thinking maybe a master's might be in my future, but I definitely never thought PhD would be. So I wasn't sitting there as a freshman like planning for it, but I had heard about URPs, especially I had done internships. My first freshman summer, I was a camp counselor, but after that, everything else was like technical engineering internships related. But I had research wasn't exactly on my mind. But then I think it was my spring sophomore year. I got the chance to do a very simple like measurement type or focused URP up at the linear accelerator. And it wasn't quite my interest, but I liked the chance to do something outside of the classroom that was in a lab environment. So that the following year, I got connected with the department head at the time, Timothy Way, and he had said that there was space in his lab, and if I was interested, I can join in. And one of the other things I think I've learned throughout undergrad and going through life is really when an opportunity presents itself, sometimes it's just worth going for it, even if you're not sure. And you can always change your mind later and come back from it. But I just said, yeah, I didn't really know exactly what I did. I knew something about fluid mechanics, but I think as an URP, I did microscopy measurements of all things. Again, not quite what I expected. But I got to join the lab, and I got to meet more senior lab members who were grad students who could give me advice and perspective, and it was a nice like community. I think of them both as my big brothers, and I got to tag along in their experiments. So between the microscopy stuff as well as microfluidics that was related to that, as well as the water tunnel. Not sure if it's still there, but there was a water tunnel in the basement of Ricketts, and I spent a lot of time there. That's actually what led to my master's work. So getting my foot in the door with Dr. Way and into the lab led to these great opportunities and also more questions for me and thinking about what I wanted to do and what I enjoyed. And I realized that when I was looking at potential jobs post-bachelor's, I just really wasn't, with my internship experiences, they weren't showing me things that brought me the excitement that I got in the lab of being able to problem solve and like work with different equipment and see the life cycle of our project. I think both Caitlin and Christina mentioned that before too, just that life cycle experience. So when Dr. Way said, hey, I've got funding, he had a grant through the NIH for some of the fluids work he was doing, and my cat is eating a plastic bag. I apologize. So I just jumped on it because, I wanted to keep doing the research and I wanted to keep exploring and figuring out what I wanted to do. And I think also the fact, I think, a few of us talked about this before, but as I had gone through grad school and even going to Nebraska for my PhD, like I knew a lot of people in other fields who were not getting their degrees or their education funded and not getting stipends. And it's really tough going to grad school. I know undergrad is already expensive, but to do grad school on top of that, when you're expected to do as a research assistant, so you're expected to do so many hours in the lab, it made life a lot better. So, if that's something that's interesting to you, I think like definitely talking to different professors early on, like doesn't hurt to get your foot in the door and to learn about what they're doing. And if it's interesting to you, if it's not interesting to you, that's okay. Move on. But NSF, NIH, there's all these different bodies out there that provide funding. So things that you can also look for on your own, as well as through a lab. Like it works different ways. And I'm happy to answer more questions about that if that's of interest. But I'll kick it over to the rest.
Yeah, I had a different experience, but also definitely dabbled in the URP system. First things first, I dabbled into it because no one was looking at me in the career fair when I was a freshman, and I was really annoyed, and I really wanted to get my hands on something. So it was my first, so as a freshman, I stayed on campus in the summer and did an undergraduate research project. So I think that's one huge way that it's fun and it's hands-on experience. When you don't land an internship, it's really great. Next, so it was also I guess I have three funny three different URP opportunities that I took. So the first one was with Professor Tomazawa in material science lab. He was one of the thermals and fluids professors. I think I'm not sure if he's still around, but he basically was teaching us about how samurai swords were made, and then that's when I was hooked. So I was like, okay, I want to go work with him. And he had a grant with Corning, and that was really exciting. And basically, we were playing with glass fibers. I think this was before AT&T even came out with the whole fiber optics. I was still a freshman again, so it was just really exciting to get my hands on like glass fibers and kind of help Corning with getting some of their answers. So really cool experience. My next undergraduate research situation was actually I've always loved math, so I wasn't sure if I was going to be pursuing applied math opportunity or engineering. So I actually worked with the RPI math team, math people, and they were looking for proving theorems. So I actually chose to model the bending of the glass that I did with Professor Tomazawa in math, and that was really exciting. Also made me realize I don't want to do that, but it was really exciting to kind of like use that and apply it in a different way and kind of see. In engineering world, you take the glass fiber and you just bend it with your hands. In the modeling math world, you have to do 1,000 different math equations to get to bending the glass on paper. So super exciting, really cool exercise, but also made me realize I do want to be an engineer. So very cool there. And then my final one was kind of because I love Professor Samuel so much, I joined Professor Johnson Samuel in his micro manufacturing research. And at this point, I kind of was already a total manufacturing junkie and wanted to learn more about it. So this was also just my my time to apply more manufacturing details and learning more on that aspect. But it also just kind of helped me, like similar to what Erica was saying, I just met so many cool people, and I met people that were just as passionate as me in certain aspects. And it's funny because like I'm never going to forget the experience I got in the material science department. I learned a lot about the material science department from that undergraduate research program. Like very cool, especially because as a mechanical engineer, you're in the main department, so you don't get to see all the other departments. So that was fun. I used it more to kind of make sure I was in the right place and also just have experience. But then the final push was also to understand if I wanted to go into a PhD world what it would look like. And I think I would have totally done it with Professor Samuel. I just think it's a preference thing, really. I think I was just so itchy to go and make things that I had to pursue it. But that's kind of what's exciting about it, is there was just so many different doors that open or close that help. So it's a really cool way to just exercise your interests a little more.
Awesome.
So
Thank you.
I would say
Caitlin,
I
go
barely dipped my toe into URP. So mine actually starts with, I did summer arch, or the arch program. I was like the second trial run, so it was optional for me, and I chose to do it. So it came to be my away semester, and I was staying on campus as an RA, but like planning to work somewhere, and hadn't gotten a position yet. Like had applications out that I haven't heard from, and the semester had started, and I was like, okay, well, I'm here, like I'm living on campus, like what am I gonna do? And this comes back to like making the connections. So I had made a bunch of connections with different professors, and Professor Sandy Mishra, actually, like I got in with his group. It was like a drone project. I think I went to 2 team meetings, and I ordered something on Amazon for them. And then my internship with GE came through, and I ended up being like, I like, thank you so much for like my 2 weeks of something to do. But, and like they totally understood, but it just kind of goes back to that, like making the connections early. Like even if you don't necessarily get research as a freshman, like making the connections and trying to learn what different faculty are doing for research, and that way you can like show interest or get to know them and try to get into their labs or into that research. Like that's my experience, at least. Like even though it was only 2 weeks, it like knowing him and having built that rapport like helped a lot.
No, and all that's really valid, Caitlin. You hear us in the hub when you were there that, we try to form those connections. If you like your IEA professor, talk to them about more, start those conversations really early, because it's only going to help you. You might not get an undergrad research opportunity right in the first year, but keep trying. Now, we're a little short on time, so I'm going to ask you guys one more question, and then I'm going to open it up to students asking questions, because I know we have a bunch in the chat. This is a reflective question as well. Just what do you wish you knew as a first-year college student that you know now?
I have 2 things I can say. Hello. Sorry, my cat's throwing something around the room. So first of all, I did 2 internships, and then I kind of worked at RPI one summer. So both of my internships were mostly facilities engineering. And so like looking back, like I wish I'd like tried to like diversify them more, because now like I'm kind of down the route of what I'm doing isn't everything that it's like seemed like it was going to be great, and I'm not like loving it. So like maybe if I had done a more broad variety of internships and had like different experiences, like I could have been like, hey, I like this a lot better, rather than, oh, I only have experience in this. And then the other thing is, as much as grades and classes and all of that is very, very important, when you look back, you're going to remember the experiences and like the people you met along the way and the things you did more than that one class you got a D in. So like I'm not saying like just to like, C's get degrees, like no, do your best and everything, but let yourself, if you are not doing well, it's not going to be the end of the world.
Thank you, Caitlin.
Yeah, I would say I agree with you, Caitlin. It's not the end of the world to do super great. But I wish I was told that more. I think that if anything, as you guys can tell, I've had a lot of failures in college, but what's really cool is all of them helped me a lot more. Like my failures helped me more in my career now. Like I said, like I proudly was awful at modeling and analysis and certainty, but I grew up a bit, went back, took another course, and it kind of like, made it was like a bookmark I gave myself. Like if this ever comes in career, I need to go back and kind of refix it. Otherwise, you can be smarter and do it while you're paying for it at RPI. But that's just a heads up there. And yeah, I would just say, yeah, like it's just knowing that failing is good. If I knew that earlier, I feel like would just be so great. Like it's not, and to me, it was not important to be a 4.0er. It was more important to feel like I was understanding what the ins and outs of a mechanical engineer is going to see and is going to need in terms of skills, and that's really what I wish I knew more of. And actually failing is good because it again like opens doors and closes doors correctly to kind of like move you in the right direction. So I would say like if I saw gave myself more perspective where like failure was okay, I think that would be like a huge win, because it took me kind of failing to realize that I can still make it in a career. And Karen and Marie, everyone knows I was a FIP after my first semester, so it was like a great fun wake up call to kind of see that it wasn't the end of the world, and that it was actually more beneficial to me to kind of like fail fast, fail quick, and then kind of like readjust. So I would say don't worry about it. I will also say I did get a W on one of my transcripts, and that one still haunts me because I didn't want to have a W, but I had one. And now that I look at my life and I have a W on my college transcript, I'm like, whatever. So if you're in a situation where you're in a really horrible place and it's like life or death situation where you're like, oh my God, if I withdraw from this now I'll get a W, like who cares? Just get the W and take it next year. I did that with one class, and I'm like really glad I did, because it was like we get so focused on the transcript and everything. What's more important is just like really getting the experience you can out of RPI and all the cool resources.
Awesome, Christina. And just to clarify, because these students haven't been through the add drop period fully yet, a W is when you drop the course after the drop deadline. So we might have told you in the past, if you drop it before the drop deadline, it wipes the slate clean, like you never even signed up for the course. But if you drop it after that drop deadline, which has to be approved also, you will have a W on your transcript. So that's what Christine is referring to. And as she said, it's not the end of the world. So I'm going to move on to Erica.
Well, that makes me think it too. Like, I remember in college, nobody was cared about, like, you got to college, what was your SAT score? Who cares? And it's like, now that I'm in my career, it's like, all right, who cares what my exact GPA was? Like, I got the education, and these are the things I've been doing. So I think that's a really like important, like, you know what I mean? It might seem like life or death right now, but in the scheme of things, you'll get past it and it'll be okay. I think the big thing I would tell myself as if I was a freshman would be, there's more than one way to be an engineer. Especially what you see, like, I'll never forget, like, seeing Matt Damon in that space one where he's like a mechanical engineer and a botanist and all these things. He and he like just solves everything right away. And I'm like, well, maybe you're amazing. This is a story, but like, there's experts, right? Don't get me wrong. There's just people who are gifted and like know everything about something, and they have a role, but so does the person who's a generalist, and so does somebody who's got a few things. Or there's just so many different ways you can show up and be successful, and that your life and your worth is not like being the like all-star expert in something. I think to build on that too, I mean, when I was an undergrad, we had these two design, like sophomore, it was like intro to engineering design, and I think senior was your design or concentration class. But like, there were these components that were presentation and like people skill focused. And I know a lot of people were like, oh, I didn't come to school for this crap. But that kind of stuff, I mean, like I said before, maybe you'll spend your entire career working with just engineers, but I kind of doubt it. So knowing, and even like the courses that you don't enjoy that much, if you know the language of that course, well, guess what? You can talk with somebody who's like, I think Christina made this point earlier, you can talk with them. And who knows, that might open some doors for you. So I think, yeah, when I was a freshman, IEA, that first class, I freaked out about the question when it was asking about the slope. And I was like, oh my God, I'm a failure. And it was just, the slope of a curve, right? Like, I felt so embarrassed thinking about it, but there's nothing to be embarrassed about. I think the last thing I would say is, like, if you have a question about something, you're probably not the only person with that question. So don't be embarrassed, or don't feel like oh my gosh, everybody knows this but me, because it's probably not true.
Yeah, I really want to add to that too, Erica. I think I would say like maybe what we're trying to say is like it's more important to learn how to learn than to like fixate on what you're learning, especially with the world we are today. Like it's so crazy to me that even if I don't understand in the middle of a meeting someone talking to me, I have YouTube at my fingertips and I can like quickly understand and I'm not embarrassed about it. It's like if something comes in conversation and I'm not really sure, like it's just being comfortable with the fact that like you're going to learn what tools are available to you throughout your whole time. And so even if a class is over and like, fine, you got to see like, okay, if I ever see that again, I'm going to not do well. You can go back to it because now you know how to go back to it or what is like the general understanding and gist. So I would say that's also really huge is learn how to organize yourself and time management. And like, those are all the things that like you kind of learn and they stay with you forever besides like regardless of what career path you take or anything. And really, Erica, what you said was so important. Like it's also if you have information and good data and whatever but you don't know how to present it, like it's basically not data. So it's so important to be able to market yourself however it is, whether it's a good written essay on your like findings or a good PowerPoint presentation showing like your like engineering thought process around it. Like those are almost like like required more so because like Erica you mentioned it's trying to get the whole team on board and really clearly sharing your intentions as an engineer I think is huge.
Awesome, guys. Thank you. And thank you for answering all of my questions. I know I'm going to turn it over to Kristen because I know she has some questions in the chat too, and we want to get you some student questions here. So take it away, Kristen.
Yes, we do. And I want to say, first of all, that was such a great panel listening to all you guys said. That was like the biggest freaking pep talk right at the start of the semester when you need it most, and like I don't want anyone in this room to forget how successful you three are as well, and you're talking about your failures, you're talking about your mistakes, you're talking about what was hard, and you've had, like amazing experiences, you worked in great places, and you have connections literally everywhere. And I think, getting to hear you talk about all of that, like definitely, the fact that you guys are so successful really puts an emphasis on it's okay to trip. And the trick is getting back up. So thank you so much for everything that you guys just shared with us. Also, I'm sorry my camera's not on. But when I plugged in my laptop, I unconnected my lamp. So you wouldn't be able to see my face anyway, because I'm sitting in a very dark room. But we do have questions. So I'm actually going to start at the bottom because there were some great questions about research, which you guys talked about recently. So I'm going to start there and then I'll work my way back up. So the three questions that we have about research project is what year do you recommend starting to look into them? How do you join them? And then where does the funding come from for research projects? So I pass that over to you guys.
I'll jump in real quick. I'm wondering, so I'm thinking of URPs as like the undergraduate research project versus like grad school research. It's definitely a little bit different. For the URP, that's definitely, I think Karen mentioned this before, like if you like a professor, like talk to them. That's the most direct and easiest way of kind of finding a project. I think back when I was there, some of them had websites, like if they had like a center or anything like that where they might post available options, but the easiest best way I think is just talking to a professor and say, express your curiosity, your interest. Maybe if you have any relevant skills that maybe you're not, as a freshman, maybe you haven't taken a lot of classes yet, but I think someone mentioned before, like what if you have coding experience? That could definitely go a long way. I think just expressing a willingness to learn, I think is the biggest thing there. And yeah, definitely, I don't think it's too early to try now. You may not get as many yeses as you might if you were more advanced in your coursework, but it's not too early. And again, you're starting that conversation now, so they might think of you, and it's easier to go back to them later on. But funding, I don't know, maybe, I don't care, you might know more about this. I think that for URPs, it comes from the department, if I'm not mistaken. And that's distinct versus if you're going for a grad school, like if you're a master's or PhD, like you as an RA, a research assistant, or a teacher's assistant, that funding does come from the department. But if you're getting funded through an external grant, that's totally separate. So like I mentioned, like NSF, NIH, like any of those government agencies are definitely big ones. But sometimes companies sponsor or coordinate. Like we're working with a research center for wind resilient, like resilient building design, and my company kicks in money, other companies kick in money, and then we have like FIU, Texas Tech, they have grad students that are funded through it. So it's company driven, but that's another option too. But Karen, sorry, I didn't mean to, like, is it URPs are paid for through the department?
I think it's the faculty individually
Oh.
that have to fund them. But generally, when students are doing the URPs, we usually start out with experience, or if a faculty will award the student credit. That's usually what. Don't see a ton of the financed ones, but definitely for credit. And with mechanical engineers specifically, they can use their URP experience to satisfy a technical elective on their curriculum. So that's a really cool way to get something that is unique because you worked on it, and a title that you create with your faculty mentor, and it shows up on your transcript. It's a great conversation piece. That's usually, so but yeah, that's where it comes from, and I will stop talking now.
No, I'm actually curious. I guess the way I stumbled upon like it wasn't a career fair, it was like a URP fair when I was at RPI. So I'm not sure if that still exists. I somehow stumbled upon like some sort of, and I like learned about the program, but I did the same as Erica. I really just, after the samurai sword conversation, I just went to Professor Tomazawa and I was like, anything, I don't know how to do anything, just tell me. And he kind of laughed, he did, but then I kind of after every class was like, is there anything now? And then he finally walked me to his one of his like graduate students and was like, here. And then I just kind of did whatever experiments the graduate student wanted, and it was just fun. Like, again, like you touched, Erica, on like microscope or some sort of microscopy. And like I think even that's the other cool thing is like I got to use all the cool like lab tools. That it was a totally different reason, but it's still cool to have lab and R&D equipment experience. But I would kind of say like for sure ASAP, especially if we're feeling itchy and you just like finish the class with someone you like. So yeah.
I was saying, I think the fair you're talking about, I don't know if it is the exact one, but I'm pretty sure at least sometimes throughout the year in the JAC, like second and third floor lobbies, like people set up with their research out there. I don't know if that's graduate or undergraduate, but I remember always seeing that.
I definitely think it's still a thing. And obviously COVID has made everything a little bit more of a question mark, but I imagine if you keep your eye on Morning Mail, you will definitely see some kind of marketing or fair or awareness about the URP projects that are happening. And they do have information sessions just like they have them for co-term. So Morning Mail, I know everybody's inbox explode every night. Everyone knows I was off for a week and I had over 200 emails in my inbox I was going through today. But seriously, spend 0.3 seconds to just browse the titles of that thing, because all the stuff you guys want to do is available at RPI, and odds are that's how you're going to find it. Just to throw that out there. I know, email's the worst, but what are you going to do about it?
It was in today's morning mail.
There you go. Thank you. So if you check out today's morning mail, you will see it there. I did not check it out because I had a lot of other emails to look at. Okay. I don't want to cut anyone off for the research. Did you guys? Good? Okay, cool. So the other
The answer Did we answer your question, Scott? Maybe we did. Okay, awesome. Awesome.
Cool. So just to do one more plug, if any of you guys have questions, you can throw them in the chat. I have one more student question here. And after that, we can even unmute mics if people want to, but I would say we're well after the time anyway, so we'll probably just call it tonight. But here is our final question, which is, what sparked your passion for your favorite subjects? For instance, Erica mentioned about how she loved fluids. Was it a burning passion that led you down your career path? Well, was it what you and your friends like to do? Question mark. I love that question.
I can start quick. So mine was like kind of started from the reason I was interested in engineering, right? Like the hands-on aspect. Took engineering processes, loved it. Immediately was like, get me out of these aero classes. Like this is not my cup of tea. And then I worked at RPI the summer after my freshman year, teaching that CAD to 3D printing course and getting to work like very closely with some of the shop guys I mentioned, like Larry, Scott, John. Like you'll meet them throughout your time there, and just like working closely with them and getting involved with the mill and MPS and everything, like just seeing that progression and like seeing how everything built on each other and getting like the hands on and not just the theory for me was huge. And like that's just kind of how I found it. I stumbled into it and just followed it down the path.
I guess I can go next. So I think, ironically, my first favorite class was engineering dynamics, which builds on IEA. So if you're struggling with IEA, just wait. Like things start moving in the next class, and that's really fun. And I think that was the first time I was like, interesting how you have these different frames of references, and you're trying to problem solve for different parts. And I just like love. I kind of just fell in love with that, but it was that URP experience that really got me into fluids specifically, and not just, okay, here's like the flow, here's Navier Stokes or something. It was more, well, what does it take to answer these fluids questions? So the fact, again, like there was a reason I did experimental and not computational fluids. Like I can program, but wasn't my cup of tea. It was, I just loved, as literally patching up a leaky water tunnel and machining parts to put in it that were stainless steel so they wouldn't corrode, and trying to figure out the wiring to get this thing to move the way that we were supposed to move, and then figuring out the imaging so that we can observe the phenomena that we thought we would see or were hypothesizing we would see. So again, it was, and I did appreciate as I took more grad classes on deriving the fundamental equations and understanding how to make assumptions and how to narrow down the scope so it's solvable. And that really helped me out, like, into my career and other things, like how do you make assumptions in a practical and minimal risk way. But I love fluids because it was complicated and messy and interesting to observe. And that process of trying to observe it and quantifying it was what drove, and that's where I think that connects to the engineering dynamics part of it. And I got to do it in a way that I didn't have to sit down in front of a computer all day to solve those equations. And before I forget, Christine, I know you're next, but maybe after that, I know we both have the engineering, the internship co-op thing. I just want to not forget. So, but I'll kick it to you.
Awesome. Yeah. I think my passion, it's very interesting. Again, like growing up with, well, I mean, I know it's not been a long time, but it's so funny to me how much the world has changed since I was thinking about college. It was still not the most popular, and I'm sure Erica, you were the same for like female engineering. It wasn't like it was happening. It was up and coming. Definitely not in mechanical. It was kind of like limited in that aspect. But also again, like just not being around anyone engineering focused and not really knowing that engineering was really an option for me was kind of a hard thing to start trying to understand. But it was like very simple. I want to know how things are made. I like making things, like, okay, that's equals to engineering. And then it's kind of, I started as undeclared as well, because I was like, I don't really know what it means. I like them all. They all sound exciting. And it just it just clicked. I know it was the same as what you said, Caitlin. It clicked really in engineering processes that it was like what I was most passionate about was having all the tools and understandings of how to make things and knowing all the like ins and outs of what's used to make this or what's used to make that, or really just manufacturing processes. It just clicked because it started to, at least for me, open up my perception a lot differently. I don't know if you guys ever take a class with Sam Chapone. In my first class with Sam Chapone, he came to class with a toy car and he passed it around and he said, "What do you see?" And it was like a car, but then he kind of was like, "But how was this made?" And like for basically the entire class, we were just taking this car and just passing it around the class and slowly noticing things. It was just like so exciting. And ever since that class, I can't stop noticing things. Like I'll find where the injection mold like opening is on like plastic things, like, or where it's pushed out. I'll find like the draft angle on plastic pieces because of how it has to push out of the mold. It's just like exciting things like that kind of like make total sense. And at least I've built all of my excitement in my career. And what I realize is just something that I love is just how now understanding how things are made. It's another creative way to like product design and like, manufacturer design. And I'm sure, Erica, you probably feel the same way about this, but I would say that's, yeah, that's my answer. So maybe going back to your question a little more, Peter, it wasn't really with friends. I mean, I guess for my minor, it was, like I mentioned, my Navigating Rensselaer and Beyond. That was really purely man from Tennessee made me feel like a privileged Texan who didn't understand what recycling was. So I did it as I need to learn this. So that was really fun. But like the rest was really kind of, it was just a passion that it was kind of a burning passion that happened. So I feel like you'll find your burning passions again more the more you put yourself in these new situations. Speaking of situations, maybe Erica, you have something to share.
Oh yeah, so definitely wanted to share. I reached out to my company's like recruiter for college campuses, and there's definitely they just this week just opened up the engineering and supply chain co-ops, I believe, for the spring and for the fall of next year. And we also, I think there's a couple of positions posted now. And yeah, thanks for sharing that, Karen. So feel free just to check out gaf.com /careers. And you can sort, so what's interesting too about manufacturing, I know Christina mentioned like going to, I think you said Utah, right? Just like, or Nevada, right? Nevada, sorry. Plants are all over the place and not always near urban areas. So like when I go to plant trials, I'm going to an hour south of Dallas or in Indiana and in interesting places, but also Baltimore. So you never know where. So if you're open to changing up your location, which having again started growing up in Queens and living in Nebraska for a while, it's an eye-opening experience. I recommend it. So yeah, feel free to check it out. And again, as you move forward throughout, if you're thinking about full-time careers too at any point, that's a great place to look too, but also happy to answer any questions. I know Karen Marie and everyone has my email, so feel free to reach out if you have any questions, and I'd be so happy to help. And I know Christina has some news to share too.
Yeah, I was hoping to have more. I also reached out to our university recruiting, and of course they're hiring like crazy right now. I would just say check out the website that I gave in the chat earlier to see what y'all can find. But really, I don't have anything yet. But if I do, I'll share it with Karen, and she can share with you guys later. I this might be like super late, but I just want to give a shout out to those who are thinking about going into controls. I know we didn't talk about it a lot today, but controls is a huge piece of it's I I think it's like the peanut butter to like the jelly of mechanical engineering in some ways. So I just wanted to at least shout out to those who are interested in that aspect too. It's still like a super booming side of the mechanical world, is just the controls engineering aspects and like programming and the hardware and software side. So definitely fits within everything we said in terms of like dual major or minor, or trying to like get your hands dirty in those research opportunities and stuff. So still very much like, I just wanted to shout out that it's a cool option, and it's very much something that I've noticed all my coworkers across my career that helped them the most is knowing that as well. So just wanted to at least throw that out there.
I also just wanted to say, like, I know when I first started college, I was a little bit more shy. So if anybody has any questions, if they didn't want to ask like in front of anybody, Karen and everybody has my email. So like, I'm more than willing to like respond to anything. And I don't mind staying like a few minutes at the end if someone does have something they want to ask. I don't want to speak for the other two, but for me personally.
Yeah, I mean, thank you so much for all of that, guys. And yes, we'll absolutely, especially since everyone just said they're comfortable with it, we will share your emails with everyone in the room. I totally just lost my train of thought. This is recorded. It will be up on YouTube. We will send it out to everyone.
We'll also send out that information about the co-op via email as well. So
yeah, and I was kind of doing a dance in my seat, and I know you guys couldn't see it when you started talking about that, because I think that's super exciting. And I love that you brought that to our students. And it also made me want to give a little bounce back to Kristen Kettering, and don't forget that she exists to help you with resumes so that you guys can get prepared to apply for these opportunities. And let me tell you, don't let this one skate by you. This is what we call networking. Jump on it. Do it. So I think we will, if you're good, Karen, we'll leave it here for tonight.
yeah, I just want to say thank you for participating and spending the evening with me, because you ladies all rocked, and I really enjoyed listening to your stories. So thank you for sharing everything so candidly.
You guys were a great panel. The three of you were so nice to listen to.
This was so much fun. Thanks for having us. It's awesome hanging out with you guys, and of course some badass mechanical engineers too. So yeah.
Woot woot.
Thanks, and thanks, Erica, and good luck to everyone who's a freshman. And I would say, like, when in doubt, just ask or like research, because there's no reason to internalize your anxieties in college. It's like when you should be completely trying to throw them on walls and see what sticks. So good luck. And enjoy.
Always have fun. Cool.
I don't know if you're still willing to answer questions, but Christina, I'm interested in automotive and controls. I don't know, like, it's my passion. I don't know if you can, like, I can give you my email if you'd be interested too. If there's anything that pops up, send to me.
Yeah, I'll just send you my email, and you can send me, we can talk. And I can help you through it.
Thank you. I know, like, I already joined the motorsport team because I'm like, this is what I want to do. So.
So what was, I guess, like, did you have a specific question now you wanted answered?
No, I don't think so, but thank you.
Yeah, good luck, and I'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Love a person who jumps in for that networking opportunity.
We did it, guys.
Katie, just so you know, she has come here. She might as well be a sophomore. She's already got 32 credits. She's an amazing student. She's the only kid I knew who came in as a freshman who had AP, like, transfer credit for IEA. She's in strength
Wow.
materials right now.
What?
I know.
I'm gonna transfer
Where did she take it?
I gotta look her up because she had multiple institutes, and I was like, oh, that's not going to come in as IEA. Just register for IEA, because I looked at it and I was like, that's not going to be it. They never have it. And then the registrar put everything up, and it was IEA. So we had to put her. She's like, can I try strengths? I'm like, oh, child.
Oh God, don't.
Should
No,
have at least done
no.
dynamics.
Well, she's
Yes.
with Omar, so I think she's in
Okay.
good hands. But she said she loves it so far. So
Wow.
Omar
Yeah.
keeps it fresh,
Don't
so.
hear that often.
I hope she doesn't have a fever. I hope she's okay.
Yeah, I hope she doesn't get the flu during finals like I did after I took the strengths
My
final.
gosh, that's
Oh no.
crazy. You guys were awesome. This was like one of the best industry hours. You guys were so good. And
you're so
I did,
supportive.
Mark was like walking through, and I said, like, not to be a jerk and a sexist, like in the reverse way, but like women are so good at being collaborative and like throwing it to each other and like expanding on each other's stuff and not just talking about themselves and being extreme, just so much more collaborative because most of the times we're doing this with dudes and it is just not the same dynamic, you know? I mean, and certainly it's not just the fact that you're women. It's absolutely in part who you are as human beings, 100%. And that's why I love you so much. But it's just like, holy crap, it's just such a very fundamentally different experience. And I loved this all women Mechie panel. It just was awesome. And Karen Lewis is awesome too. And Kristen is awesome. And like, holy crap, what a group of really cool women. And I hope these kids realize how lucky they are. And the great thing is that, you know, we record these and our students know we record them. So if they had clubs to go to tonight, or if they had other courses to do, or if they, you know, like so many of our freshmen are just freaking out about all their classes right now. I can't even tell you that you know, if they were doing work or whatever, you know, they can watch this at their convenience and they can watch it in bits and pieces. And you know, we're going to share the hell out of it and, you know, try and get as many people to watch it because to your point, Kristen, this was the exact message these guys needed to hear right now. You know, the fact that, you know, you guys all talked about IEA as one of your examples. And holy crap, they are all freaking out about IEA. We've had 1 week of classes, they've had 2 classes, and they're coming in and their hair's on fire and they want to drop it and they want to go home. I mean, you know, like by Friday afternoon, I'm meeting with kids who are like literally ready to go home, you know, and it's like, whoa, you know, like it's okay, you know. So this was the
Oh,
right
I'm still
exact
recording.
message.
Hold on.
Yeah, I was gonna mention like stop recording